Hey everyone! Before we open today's file, please make sure to follow us on Instagram at d.s.radio, where you can find all the images that go along with today's case. You can drop us an email at contact.dsradio@gmail.com. You can find all of our socials in the Linktree bio on our Instagram profile, including links to merch. If you're feeling especially generous, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dystopian simulation radio, where you can get access to our exclusive Instagram page and make suggestions for upcoming episode topics that you would like us to cover. Speaking of Patreon, thanks to our Patreons, Riff Cult, Cropley Crab, Cash Broadus, Raspberry Jr., Jason R. Nelson, Creepy Paper, Jamie Sook, Michael Laughlin, Lindsay Keller, Mike Wright, Greer Weaver, Kelsey Carruthers, Linz Gibbon, Drake Holvig, Only Child, Michael M, Wesley Akers, Riaz K, Emily Medeiros, Pip, Heather Wynne, Graves, Devon Sweatshirt, The Ordained Sinister Minister, and Philip Hoffman. Hi everyone, just Linz dropping in before the episode starts to give you a heads up for this one. We will be discussing suicide at the very end of the episode, so if that's something that you find triggering, please feel free to select another episode from the archives and skip this one. If you are in the UK and you are struggling right now, please call 116123. That is the number for Samaritans. You don't have to be suicidal to talk to somebody at Samaritans. If you find it difficult to talk on the phone, you can email joe@samaritans.org. That's jo@samaritans.org, and you'll usually receive a response within 24 hours. Also keep in mind that if it's an emergency, you can call the regular emergency number. Other resources will be linked in the description for this episode, and it will include links to suicide lines in various countries. Hi everyone, and welcome to Dystopian Simulation Radio. I'm your host Linz.
And I'm your other host Chris. Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Excellent.
Excellent.
We are we're on the last episode of our marathon recording sprint today. We've got three in the bag and one in the bush.
Okay. So yeah, you're doing good, Chris.
I am ace of spades.
Well, I'm really happy with the episodes we've recorded recently. We have such a mixed bag.
We do.
For you in the coming month, so hope everyone enjoys that. And I think that we are just going to get straight into it today, Chris.
All right, okay, so let's jump into it. So just very quickly, remember, if you want to see the images for today's episode, they are at d.s.radio on Instagram. And if you would like to join us on our Patreon, we'd be very, very happy. It's patreon.com/dystopian simulation radio. Give it a go.
So, Chris.
Yes.
I have another mystery for you today.
I do like a good mystery.
An episode or two ago, we revisited the case of the Somerton Man.
Yes, we did.
We do love that case, but we had a sort of cursed recording experience, and it was one of the first episodes we ever tried to record, so if you want to go hear the updated version, you can go back and listen to that. It's in the archives. It'll just be called The Somerton Man.
Yeah.
This is in a similar vein to Somerton Man, only it happened in 2009.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Okay. That changes the game a little bit. More modern investigation styles, yeah. DNA evidence, things like that.
A very interesting story. A very strange story. So, sit back, Chris. Sip on your San Pellegrino.
Mild.
And let me tell you the story. It was the afternoon of Friday, June the 12th, 2009. A well-dressed, slender gentleman with 2 pieces of luggage boarded a bus from Derry, Ulster to Sligo in Northwest Ireland. The man, who appeared to be in his late 50s or early 60s, was well-groomed with a tanned complexion, short silver hair and blue eyes. He was smartly dressed in a black leather jacket and blue slacks, with a black leather bag slung over one of his shoulders and a black holdall at his side. He made his way to the small seaport of Sligo and, without prior reservations, checked into Sligo City Hotel at the recommendation of a taxi driver with whom he had briefly conversed during the ride into town. He paid for the room in cash at a fee of €65 per night for a total of 3 nights and checked in just before 7 p.m. under the name Peter Bergmann. He wrote down Einstesten 15 4472, Vienna, Austria as his address. He showed no proof of ID at check-in. It would later be determined that the address did not exist and that the name Peter Bergmann was likely an alias. 4 days after checking in, the man would be found dead on a nearby beach.
Oh, another beach-related death.
Yep.
There wasn't anything in his top pocket, was there?
No. But how strange.
Yeah.
It was strange.
2 beach-related mysteries.
Mm-hmm. Only this man, he's been using an alias, a fake address, checked into a hotel cash in hand, no prior reservations, like he just rocked up to Sligo and then said, where can I stay?
All the time in the world.
Peter Bergmann checked into room 705. The next morning, at around 10:49 a.m, he took a short walk to the nearby Sligo General Post Office, where he bought some airmail stickers and a book of 8 stamps at 82 cents apiece. It is believed he sent 10 letters overseas. However, the footage from the post office CCTV was lost when transferring it from the store computer to a police memory stick.
Oh, God.
Was that like a Control X or something? Oh my God.
Oh, so they lost it when they were transferring evidence?
Apparently during the transfer.
Oh.
When police returned to copy the file again, it had already been deleted.
Oh, no.
Any letters Peter Bergmann did write could not be retrieved. Oh, God, that hurts.
So, hold on, I need to pause for a second here.
Yes.
So, just to recap. So, this guy of unknown origin takes a bus into Sligo.
Yes.
Then a taxi.
Yeah.
And just asks for a recommendation about where to stay. Checks in for 3 days, and on the 4th day, so presumably the day he checked out, he's found dead on a beach.
Yes.
Right.
So each day at around 8 a.m, the man would come down to eat the hotel breakfast before returning to his room. He would later re-emerge carrying a filled purple plastic bag. He would then leave the hotel and return later without the bag multiple times per day.
Huh. Quite distinctive, isn't it? A purple bag. It's quite a unique colour. It's going to draw attention if you're doing it multiple times a day. I mean, it is just a bag at the end of the day, but if it's if it was like
like a branded bag or something.
Yeah, branded bag. If it said Tesco on it or something like that, you probably wouldn't have thought anything of it necessarily. But what could he be taking from his room multiple times a day?
So police believe it was likely that he emptied the contents of the plastic bag around town to dispose of his personal belongings, trip by trip.
Oh, so he was emptying the contents of the bags?
That's what police think.
Oh.
He was reportedly in and out of the hotel so much that his actions were described as like a conveyor belt, always leaving with a full plastic bag and returning empty-handed, in and out, in and out. Despite being captured roaming around in town on CCTV here and there, he was never actually seen emptying the contents of his bag. So the cameras caught him walking around, but no camera ever caught him getting rid of the things in the plastic bag.
I wonder if he was getting rid of them in places like, down alleys or around the back of shops, places where you may not necessarily have security cameras.
Police do not believe that this is a coincidence, or rather that the unknown man knew where the blind spots were and took advantage of them. According to Detective Inspector John O'Reilly, the officer in charge of the case at the time, Bergmann repeated the purple plastic bag ritual at least 13 times, not once revealing to cameras where he discarded the contents. When asked what he thought the unidentified man was disposing of, O'Reilly supposed garments and likely a passport.
But why? Hold on.
Literally a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, I get the logical jump of he must have known where the blind spots were. But how would one know where the blind spots were town-wide, you know?
And they don't mention him looking at the cameras at any time.
No.
Which is very strange.
CCTV cameras, I mean, if we're assuming he's picked up by businesses and shops that have their own, then he couldn't be in charge of all of them. He couldn't have any inside knowledge of all of them because they're all separate entities, like on the post office. But if they...
And they have quite a scope on them, you know, when they're just pointing out in the street.
But if they were, I don't know specifically about islands or specifically about Sligo, but in the UK, I think it's in the UK, at least in England, we're one of the most densely monitored nations in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
There are public CCTV cameras everywhere, and especially if you're in a built-up place like the middle of London, Manchester, Newcastle, something like that, there are very few blind spots where there isn't a CCTV camera, and that's for police monitoring purposes and for, you know, keeping peace, essentially. I don't know about Ireland, but what I'm wondering is this presumption that he knew where the blind spots were. If he knew where the blind spots were, he must have had some kind of... Like, surely they could have just gone to the CCTV central point and been like, hello, here's a picture of this dude. Do you know him? How would you know where the blind spots were?
Yeah, how would you...
I'm about to keep the wrong tree here.
I just find it strange that 13 times, but not once.
Unless he was disposing them in the same place each time. Yeah, and that place wasn't monitored.
He was caught all around town doing it. So I think he was going...
But he wasn't caught all around town disposing of the items. He was caught all around town walking around.
True. Sergeant Terry Mahan of the Sligo Garda, who worked the Peter Bergmann case back in 2009, told the Irish Times in 2019 that he believes the unidentified man had a police or military background that allowed him to conceal his actions from the cameras and protect his true identity. I'm not too sure how he came to that conclusion.
It's a very catch-all kind of... Like, oh, well, he had police training, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird, but I don't know if he's specially trained in avoiding CCTV. So there's this short documentary about the case titled The Last Days of Peter Bergmann, where a member of staff who works at the Sligo City Hotel during Bergmann's stay recalled accidentally walking in on him one day.
In the room?
She knocked on the door of room 207 and identified herself as housekeeping, only to be met with silence. Assuming the man was not in his room, she let herself in with the key, only to see him standing there silently looking shocked. She described his shock turning to relief after a moment. I think he was relieved it was a member of staff and not someone else, she said.
How strange.
Right?
So who was he expecting?
Was
That's
he
a question.
expecting someone like nefarious? Or...
Yeah.
How strange is that?
Yeah, that's very odd behaviour.
Yeah, she knocks on the door, goes, housekeeping. He doesn't answer it. He doesn't even say, just a minute. Like he is... Is he scared?
Seemingly. I mean, if I'm putting two and two together and making five, you know, he's gone to a random city. He's found a place to stay. He's acting unusually. Is he on the run from something or someone? And he's thinking the Irish mob?
But if you're running from the Irish mob, you probably wouldn't go to Ireland. Like, this guy's rocked up from Derry, so he must have got a flight from somewhere, maybe? If he's not from there?
Derry. Well, not necessarily. Ireland's big, but it's not that big. You could bus around it.
I mean, like, did he come to Ireland? Was he already there?
I mean,
why did he not show his ID?
It really all depends on what nationality he was. However, to get to Ireland, as opposed to Northern Ireland, from the UK, you would need to go for immigration passport, right?
Yeah, well, either way, you have to show a passport and get on a flight. Well, you have to show your ID somewhere along.
Yeah, like, if he's not Irish, he got into Ireland somehow, and unless we start going down the route of dinghies and boats and things like that across the channel, then he's...
No, I don't think he was doing that. I mean, he came with his hold all and his laptop bag, and he was nicely dressed. I don't think he was in no state of disarray.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, so this housekeeping announces herself, knocks on the door. He doesn't answer. Why not? He's worried that someone's pretending to be housekeeping. Click, the door opens. He looks shocked to see, like, oh God, who's coming in? Then he sees it's housekeeping and he's relieved. So he was expecting it to not be housekeeping.
But if you were on the lam, if you were running for somebody, surely something you would do would be lock your door.
Well, he did, but obviously the staff had the key because they thought he wasn't there. They're cleaning the room. And he, obviously, maybe he didn't believe that it was housekeeping. That's why he didn't answer, is how I feel. And he was like... And then a housekeeping comes in and he's like, oh, okay, it is housekeeping. That's how I interpret that.
It's very odd. It's very odd. Very
to
odd.
say the least. On June 14th, while studying a map of the area, Bergmann was approached by a taxi driver who asked him where he wanted to go. He told the driver that he wanted to go to the Strand Hill area and asked to be taken to a beautiful and less frequented beach. He wanted to go for a swim, he said. The driver suggested Ross's Point Beach, a local beauty spot recently showcased as a stunning backdrop in the Irish TV drama programme Normal People. During the drive, Bergmann, who staff at the hotel had described as having a thick German accent, revealed he was from Austria. When they reached the location, the man stared out of the taxi window to briefly survey the beach before requesting to be dropped back off at the bus station. He took the taxi driver's card and paid with a crisp note.
Interesting.
So he gets in a taxi, goes, take me to a beautiful place in this area. They drive there, looks out the window, goes, okay.
That's enough of that. We'll just go back to the bus station, please. And where did you take this bus to? Because if he's in a taxi, wouldn't you just get the taxi to take you back to where you wanted to go?
He's obviously not wanting each person to the next to know his moves, I think.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
So he's varying it up. He's trying to...
And I guess if you can't bus it all the way to somewhere, and a bus, you can't just say to a... Well, you could say to a bus, take me to your most beautiful bus stop. I guess the taxi drivers are easier to communicate with directly, and they know areas. But it's like he gave everyone a little breadcrumb, but not the entire bread.
Yeah, what is he doing? I'm thinking at this point, if you're getting rid of all your worldly possessions and so on, maybe he's preparing to leave this world. But why would you, if we take the assumption that the Somerton man committed suicide, he left his baggage with a baggage claim. Sensible place to leave it. It's not suspicious. There's no suspicious activity, and not that he probably thought this far ahead, but if it's left there, we'll just lost luggage it.
Yeah. But
to make everything go, taking it out bit by bit and possibly scattering it to different locations.
Smuggling it out, it seems, in this plastic bag.
There is absolutely nothing suspicious about somebody in a hotel leaving with a bag, like a suitcase.
Yeah.
Even if they are still due to stay for future days.
Yeah, maybe they're shopping.
Exactly. There could be any number of reasons, but he seemed like in trying to hide his tracks, he's almost drawn attention to himself.
Yeah, going in and out. They described it like a conveyor belt. CCTV footage from the hotel that day shows an impatient Peter Bergmann standing at the unstaffed reception desk, craning his neck to look for staff and checking his watch. He looks anxious, pressed for time, or as if he has somewhere else to be or a schedule to keep to. For his entire stay in Sligo, Mr. Bergmann wandered alone. He did not converse with anyone for any reason beyond the essential, and those who saw him around recalled him for a smart appearance, which they said made him look out of place. He continued to go in and out of Sligo City Hotel with his purple plastic bag, presumably discarding the contents of the bags he arrived with. The following morning, on June 15th, he made his way down to the reception desk and requested a late checkout. He had some errands to run, he said. The staff didn't find it unusual. People requested late checkouts all the time for one reason or another, so they thought nothing of it. The man walked out with his purple plastic bag for the final time, again returning empty-handed. He eventually checked out at 1 p.m. with the black leather laptop bag slung across his body and black holdall by his side. By the time he arrived at the Sligo City bus terminal, his black holdall was nowhere to be seen. It's likely he had emptied the holdall over the 3 days he spent in Sligo and had disposed of the empty bag on his way to the bus station. But again, nobody saw this happen. Police would never find the luggage, nor the contents of the purple plastic bags he emptied during the 3 days he stayed in Sligo. Officers searched extensively, checking bins around town, the local dump, and public areas to no avail.
The Somerton man, I think, it was a little bit easy to comprehend because he's starting off at the end of the story. There's a death.
Yeah.
But we don't know how he got there. But this, we're trying to explain the actions of the man leading towards his death, they seem completely impossible to understand.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing or why.
CCTV from the bus terminal showed Bergmann eating a sandwich and enjoying a cappuccino at a small table across from a man engrossed in the daily newspaper and a woman staring out at the road. He is seen taking a piece of paper from his pocket and writing something before tearing it up. This secretive note was never recovered. So, Chris, what do you think of that?
What? What is going on? This is just such a bizarre way to act. I'm just generally confused. You're doing all of this stuff. You're more than likely dumping your possessions out. You're having a nice coffee, a nice latte there, and you've got a nice sandwich, and then you start ripping up pieces of paper and writing them on them. I mean, this guy obviously something serious is going on with it. Either it's a mental health issue or he's running away for something. But real or fantasy, he is quite erratic in his behaviour, and I can't get a handle on it right now.
So, Chris, if you want to take a look at the first picture, if you could just describe the CCTV pictures of Mr. Bergmann to the listeners.
Sure. So we've got a sort of 3-in-1 picture here. Mr. Bergmann is on the older side of things. He's got white or silver hair. I would put him maybe early 60s. I'd probably place him around. He likes his tabs. He's smoking one.
You have to explain what a tab is.
A tab is a cigarette. He likes those. He's smoking a couple. He's wearing, in most of these, some form of jeans, white shirt tucked into the jeans and leather coat combination, which is a solid dad look. And yeah, he looks relatively... If I didn't know that he wasn't Irish, I would have just assumed that he was Irish. He's dressed in a...
You think so?
He's dressed in a way that wouldn't make me go, oh, I wouldn't expect an Irish person to dress like that.
So according to an article in the Irish Times titled The Unsolved Mystery of Peter Bergmann by Rosita Boland, an inspector named Vincent Dunbar, who was working at the bus depot that day, described Bergmann as looking stressed or in pain. He inquired to Dunbar about their schedule of buses going to Ross's Point and neglected to thank him before turning around and walking away, a social faux pas that Dunbar put down to the man being distracted or physically uncomfortable. Bergmann boarded a bus and purchased a single ticket to Ross's Point, making his way to the beach he had scouted the previous day. Ross's Point beach was fairly empty that day, save for a few local beachgoers. Those who would see him on the beach that evening said he stood out to them specifically for the way he dressed, as well as his actions of pacing the length of the beach. At 4 p.m, witnesses saw him walking across the sand, a dark, solitary silhouette, still with his laptop bag on his person. Around 5 hours later, he was spotted again. He caught the eye of a couple parked up near the beach, and their eyes tracked him as he walked alongside the shoreline. The mysterious man in black, bathed in orange light, intrigued those who came to marvel at the sunset that evening. One witness featured on The Last Days of Peter Bergmann said of the man, "He looked almost out of place in time. The beach was very narrow at the time, and he seemed to be pacing it. He certainly took our attention. 20 to 30 minutes later, we were on our return, and I said, 'That guy is still on the beach. It looks strange,' a second witness added." A local couple recalled seeing the man again, hours later, when walking across the beach after a date at around 10:30 to 11 p.m. That sighting would be the last time anyone saw the man, who called himself Peter Bergmann, alive.
I'm dumbfounded. I don't know. I'm so lost. Like, a guy pacing a beach that he didn't want to go to, but he asked for a recommendation for. He's dumped all of his stuff away. He's possibly using a pseudonym. He's definitely lied about his location. To what end?
So, Chris, they found some of his possessions on the rocks, and I want you to read out this list.
His possessions were discovered on the rocks near where he was found and included black leather thin comfort shoes, size 44, manufactured in 2002 in Germany, a jacket, which was a black leather C and A jacket, navy C and A chino trousers, a black sleeveless Tommy Hilfiger jumper, and a black leather belt, which was made in Italy. So, of those possessions there, I mean, size 44 shoes made in Germany. That suggests to me that he probably isn't from here because we don't use size 44s. We don't use that as a measuring system over here. And as far as I'm aware, over in Ireland as well, we'd be using size 5, 6, 7 type of thing. That's a European way of measuring. It doesn't mean he didn't just buy them in Europe, but... Yeah. That gives a lot more credence to things than I think the leather belt, the Tommy Hilfiger, just the black leather belt, which you could buy anywhere in the world and is made in Italy. He's got a few different bits of clothing. He likes C&A. C&A is a Dutch retail store. It still is a brand. It just left the UK because it recorded lots of losses in the 1990s and was accused of failing to move with the fashion.
So the medical examiner determined that the death was... Any guesses, Chris?
Suspicious?
A, quote, classical saltwater drowning.
Oh, okay. So, had all the hallmarks of a drowning in the ocean, basically, or in the sea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Examination determined that he had been going to the dentist for work frequently over the years and had been taking good care of his teeth. He even had a gold filling. Although he looked as though he was in seemingly good condition for his age, post-mortem examination did reveal that he was, unfortunately, suffering from advanced prostate cancer. Despite his condition, he didn't seem to be taking any form of medication and nothing was found in his system, although he should have been, as the cancer coupled with some existing heart issues would have definitely been giving him pain daily. Peter Bergmann, or whoever he may be, remains unidentified to this day.
How interesting. So I wonder if he was definitely receiving pain from this, maybe he was aware of the fact that he was dying and was on a suicide mission, essentially. He was stripping his stuff away, possessions, hiding them away wherever he was hiding them, and then decided that the best way to go was just by letting the sea take him. Well, like you said, people seek out beautiful places to pass away, so maybe he was looking for it, and maybe he took one look at the beach and went, yep, that's it, I'm going to go back and get my affairs in order and come back later in the evening. Now, why you'd bring your laptop to the beach? Weird. But... Yeah,
disposing of all your things clandestinely, going in and out, like you said, why not just drag this suitcase to a dumpster, dump it, and it'll probably get taken away.
I mean, like your phone or your computer, probably two places where you can find the most answers about something. So probably the key things. I mean, a leather belt from Italy only tells you so much.
And also, why get rid of all your garments if you're just going to wear those garments anyway and give some hints of...
Well, exactly, yeah. It's kind of the opposite of the Somerton man cutting out the labels in his suit jacket, or just as a general suit, actually.
And then hiding them out of view of cameras and not speaking with anyone. Obviously he was in pain. He probably wasn't in the mood. Like, he didn't even take over-the-counter medication for this. So you imagine you've got like a quite late stage of cancer, and it's probably really painful. And it's just very strange. Like, maybe some people, they don't want to continue treatment, or treatment would prevent them from having some good final days, as opposed to just being sort of comfortable at home with certain medications. And maybe he thought, I'll go out with somewhere beautiful. I get that, but the hiding, the not providing the passport, the not giving the right name or address, I mean, would it harm anything to just use your ID at that point?
Yeah, I mean, surely it would. If you were going to do that, it would at least give some closure to your family or anybody.
Well, he did send out 10 letters, and we don't know what they were. And they were overseas.
Obviously, being Ireland as well.
Yeah.
That overseas could be the UK.
Yeah.
It could be Austria. Could be Germany. Could be Timbuktu. Who knows? But
10 letters. Would that imply like children, a partner?
Yeah, I mean,
friends.
It's certainly very. I mean, if you take into it that there is a last sort of communication in there, you choose 10 people, regardless, family or otherwise, they're going to be 10 very important people in your life.
You know what? I just had a thought actually. Like maybe if you have health insurance or something, but it doesn't cover like. Could you have health insurance that didn't cover like a terminal illness?
I'm not an expert in that, but I would imagine the only way that it wouldn't cover a terminal illness, it would be if it was a pre-existing condition that you didn't notify them as, like you were well aware that you were unfortunately passing away of it.
Yeah, because that would mean that you wouldn't inform a hospital and you wouldn't get any treatment.
Yeah.
So could it be something like that? But why so secretive about all of the possessions and... Yeah, it's a very strange case.
Without knowing the contents
sad case
of the suitcase, and if we just assume that they are just clothes, I mean, if you wanted to get rid of clothes and you didn't want to draw attention, surely you just roll your suitcase on down to the charity shop, the recycle store. But
somebody would definitely say a man looking like this came in and... Or just leave it outside. No, because that's also strange. Yeah, you see, if you think about it, it is quite difficult to get rid of things without somebody remembering. But he has managed to do it.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you find an unmonitored dumpster...
Which is probably what he did.
You just dump them in there and then they'll just be probably they're somewhere in a landfill somewhere in Ireland.
Yeah, I think they did check. They said they checked, but to check a dumpster...
Needle in a haystack.
Exactly. It's just impossible.
So that's the end of Peter Bergmann.
Yeah, but nobody knows who he is. I believe that the Sligo police still have his DNA, which I think, but they were like, oh, that could only tell, where he came from. I'm like, no, we could probably, maybe you'd find a match on Ancestry or something like that. But... Yeah,
there's all kinds of things you can use it for. But I mean, knowing where he came from would be a start.
I think this is something that could get solved in the near future.
So... Well, the first thing I thought about this artist's rendition of him is he looks like Paul O'Grady.
He does look like Paul O'Grady in that artist rendition.
Yeah, so he's got very high cheekbones. He's got relatively feminine eyebrows and features to him as well. There's just something about him, and he's, in this autopsy picture that I'm looking at here, it's the opposite of the Somerton Man. He doesn't look in great condition. He looks like he's been... through 12 rounds of a boxing match.
Yeah, I guess that's the sea
and the cold.
Unfortunately,
that'll do it to you. So he unfortunately died in that way. Looking at his possessions and the CCTV footage that's been provided here, or the still images of it, doesn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary or unusual about this whatsoever. The only unusual thing is his behaviour and the ending.
It's quite a sad story. Like, I think he spent his last days... I don't know who he was, where he came from, what he did, but he spent his last days, rushedly preparing for this ultimate end. Because, obviously, it says, drowning. Do you think this was a deliberate thing? Do you think he did try to go for a swim and then he accidentally died? Or?
It sounds like a deliberate thing. He was trying to take his own life, I think. Yeah. Just coupled with all of this other behaviour. I think you're quite right when you say that the logical thing is that it's to do with the fact that he's in a lot of pain and things. But there's a very ceremonial way that he's gone about doing this, but it's unusual. He's decided to go to a beach in a random town. He's staying in a random place. He decided to get rid of all of his possessions in a particular way. I mean, why even take possessions with you?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. This is what makes me think, okay, obviously you need things because it looks strange to go to an airport with nothing but a laptop bag. It does look strange. So I guess you have to take something. And, for a few days he'll be going around and needs to...
Maybe he hadn't made his mind up.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. And whoever Peter Bergmann was, I don't know. It's just the secrecy around it, the trying to be anonymous. And do you really have to be anonymous if you're going to take your own life? There's something else behind that. And I don't know if it's our business to know, but it's just a very strange story. And Sligo's biggest unsolved case of all time.
Well, it's very dramatic.
Yes.
It's drawing attention to itself, and it's in its attempt to be conspicuous.
Yes.
It's like when somebody's acting shifty by trying to act normal. He's going around a town just dumping stuff from a suitcase. People can't find the stuff. Even the hotel staff people who work in hotels might see all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
To notice some unusual behaviour out of him.
Yeah, to notice something like that.
But
I think there was just so many similarities to the Somerton Man, which we covered that previously, very recently, so just go to the archives and listen to that. But there were so many similarities, and I thought it's kind of like a parallel. We don't really know what the Somerton Man did before he was found, but we know everything Peter Bergmann did, to an extent, before he was found dead. So I think there's a lot of parallels to that, and it was just very interesting in that way. And yeah, that's the story of Peter Bergmann.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
I think the more I think about it, the more this seems like he's taken his own life. And I'm going to guess it's because of these health issues that he's having.
Yeah.
Whether he knows it or not, whether he's being diagnosed or not is what I mean. He's definitely he's taking it into his own hands here, and which is a sad story.
We will put some resources in the description of this episode for anyone struggling.
I've got to be honest, I'm sort of dumbfounded by this. I mean, most of the things that we do, there's a sort of amusing edge to it. There's things to talk about in that way, but I'm just sort of sat here like, what? And it's a little bit like, to me, it's a little bit like the Eliza Lamb stuff.
Oh, Elisa Lamb.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Elisa Lamb. All of these theories, all these things go around, but the leading thing seems to be on that. A woman who desperately needed some help, and had some serious issues going on, who either knowingly or unknowingly, willingly or unwillingly took her own life.
Yeah.
When you strip it down away, when you take away all conspiracy theories and stuff, it's just quite sobering and sad.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is something to think about when we think about all of these unsolved cases and stuff. There's unsolved homicides and things that get solved now, which is really good because of closure for families. And, maybe it oftentimes does sort of bring to justice a killer who got away with it for a long time. But this is the other side of it, where sometimes these mysteries are only mysterious because we don't know the reason.
Yeah.
But the behaviours of Peter Bergmann before this, I don't know if it's a comment on how people act before doing something like this. Or, in the Somerton Man case, he had the Tamam Shud in his pocket, it is ended. It kind of makes you think, if he was, the Somerton Man, was he poisoned? Did he just die? Who knows? But I think it's the what does it mean that makes us so interested or confused with cases like this.
Yeah.
It's just quite a human story.
It is, and
we don't
sad.
really know.
I mean, regardless, somebody's dead, so it's never, something to to be happy about. But I think that with this case, it's just the bizarre aspect of it all. Mm-hmm.
Like the housekeeping situation.
Yeah.
There's parts of it where you just think, huh? Very strange.
Very strange.
Very strange case.
Indeed.
But yeah, that's the story of Peter Bergmann.
Well,
or whoever he may have been.
Well, thank you for telling me that story. It was very interesting.
Yeah,
although it
very
ultimately
interesting, but quite serious. And yes, we will
sad.
put resources.
Yes.
So don't worry, everyone. We're here with the resources, and we're here in the DMs too.
Yeah. So thank you very much for telling me that story today, Linz.
Yeah, no worries.
Remember, if you want to see the images that accompany this one, although I don't know if we'll be posting the...
No, we'll just post... we won't post anything that, is triggering in any way.
Yeah.
We'll just post the CCTV and living images, so don't worry.
You can always do a Google search yourself if you want to see.
Yep, and there is a documentary, and it involves a lot of the hotel staff talking. And
what was that documentary?
So it's called The Last Days of Peter Bergmann. And you can see that. I think it's even on YouTube, actually.
It is. It's just under 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really good documentary. Yeah. And you can see Sligo and what it looks like there. Beautiful place.
Great. Well, I'll definitely be watching that tonight.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for telling me that story, Linz.
Yeah, no worries.
And remember, we will see you next time, unless you are a member of our Patreon.
At patreon.com/dystopian simulation radio.
Where you can see us all the time.
Yeah, come over and discuss some cases and see some behind the scenes things and some extra videos we make on more light-hearted kind of cases that we cover. Exactly. We'll usually put up a funny video now and again, and even some drone footage of places we visit when we're out in the field.
Literally. But you can also go to our Instagram at d.s.radio. That's where you can see all of the images.
And chat to us there. Listeners often do. So drop us a line if you want to have some interesting chats about cases or suggest anything. We're always up for that.
Let us know what you think of this case. Have you seen the documentary? What do you think? We want to hear. Inquiring minds want to know.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.